historian and working in museums is a very noble profession. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of knowing that hopefully 100 years from now, work that we do today will be recognized by people in the future. A lot of people think if you work in a museum, you basically sit around and dust things that are on shelves. But Jefferson County Historical Society, I'm the executive director, and we operate 5 facilities throughout Jefferson County, and we have programs that are county-wide. So there's always something going on, always something new. Well, we open 3 or 4 new exhibits every year, either art exhibits or history exhibits. And so it's always a thin line to try and walk between how many exhibits do you leave permanently, because people like to see the same thing and they come back expecting to see something. On the other hand, it's always nice to have things that are new and refreshing, and people get to see something new at the exhibit. Come on in, folks. Don't be shy. In just a few minutes, Lucinda Eubank will be cutting the ribbon that will let us into the new exhibit. Lucinda Eubank is the great-great-granddaughter of Lucinda Hastings, the first non-native woman to settle in Port Townsend.
The ribbon cutting was quite an honor. It was of the pioneers of the area, the whole Jefferson County. So because our family was one of those, we're looking for families who are still hanging out here.
The house we're in right now is the D.C.H. Rothschild house. It was built in 1868, and Mr. Rothschild came here from Bavaria. The uptown and the downtown, 2 different entities at that time in the late 1800s, and me, being a proper uptown lady, would never ever go downtown, because at that time Port Townsend was a thriving seaport. And what do sailors want when they come to town? They want a beer and a girl. So at one time in the downtown area, there was 32 bars and brothels in that 4-block section. It was amazing. We called it sin at sea level. And we preferred to stay up here on the moral high ground.
This is the commanding officer's quarters, and it's much larger and more opulent than the Rothschild house because the commanding officer and his wife had to do a fair amount of entertaining. In the 1890s and the early 1900s, the outlook for Port Townsend was rather bleak, and people were disappearing and shooting themselves and all kinds of horrible things. And then along came the Army. The construction of Fort Worden and the presence of the Army saved the town economically during that time.
Well, we're here at the Gateway Visitor Center. It's a partnership between unincorporated Jefferson County and the Jefferson County Historical Society. We have modern day information in our main displays on the floor, and behind that sits the history of the county. We're oriented here with our displays from First Peoples to the modern day times, all the different agricultural endeavors that went on. Here we've got to focus on all those things that were happening outside Port Townsend that allowed the town to be there. There's a lot of hard work in this room. You look at all these hand tools, and somebody was on the business end providing the manpower to keep them running day in and day out.
I'm Marsha Moratti, and I am the archivist for the Jefferson County Historical Society, and we're in our collections building.
What's an archivist?
It's a keeper, I like to think. It's the keeper of the truth. It's the proof. It's the actual first source documents. Whenever anybody wants to change history, they go to the archives and change the archives first.
It was estimated that we have about 500,000 historical documents dating back into the early 1800s. And we've got hundreds of historical maps. Checks from banks could tell you what people paid
Exactly.
for and what they were buying at that point in time.
That's exciting things.
I bet it's like finding a treasure.
This has just been, a magic place for me to find wonderful things. Photo collections, census records, obituary files, oral histories.
There are probably somewhere between 30 and 50,000 three-dimensional artifacts in storage.
Heavy things are here, like old pianos and organs and church pews. Part of Port Townsend's water system. A scythe, a foot-powered dentist drill.
Probably got about 500 pieces of art in the collection. There's a wonderful Tom Wilson. We've got quite a few of his. Here we've got an amazing piece that was done about 1889 by an itinerant artist who was traveling through the Northwest and documenting. Mostly he did scenic pictures, but this one happens to be a townscape. And we were able to date it because there was a trolley in here that only existed for a couple of years.
This is against Rosa Gore. Oh dear. Keeping herself in a manner to debauch public morals. Oh dear.
All right, we have 5 trunks that teachers can check out and take to their classrooms, and one is Chinese of Port Townsend.
So now we have a new trunk from the Historical Society that's about the Chinese culture.
It's a hat. It's a hat.
Put it on you.
By the first night, they end the year and begin the year, helping this community understand where it fits in history.
The Oral History Project catches the voice of the people. It's the story, it's the color, it's the actual words with people saying them.
Plank roads were common in a certain late 1800s.
I remember that my stepdad was a wrestler.
You want another story?
I do.
Oh gosh.
And we just catch people. One of the most important questions that we ask folks is, what do you want us to remember? What do you want to be remembered? What is that thought? Maybe 100 years down the line, do you want people to know about your time here? Jefferson County is a huge county with a bunch of mountains in between, and so you travel a long ways to get out to the ocean.
We were in the little village of Queets on the west end, and we were taking photographs of the historic Shaker Church, the Indian Shaker Church. And the building had been abandoned, so we were trying to document it with photographs. And some little boys came over, and they were watching us, and they asked us what it was that we were doing. We told them we were interested in the church, and one of them said, well, then you should talk to my great-grandmother, because she is the minister.
We started out in this little house with this man and his wife. The young people started coming. Me, I was arguing around on the street, but gee, that sounded so good, that music and all that singing. And I joined church. I was 18 years old.
The Historical Society provides us with that view into the past right up to today. I mean, they didn't stop collecting at some point like 1948 and say, okay, we've got all the history. History continues. We're making history sitting here right now.
It's important to the Historical Society that we don't lose these voices, that we can see them, that we can hear them, and that their time here isn't forgotten.
We save stories. Those stories come to us in a whole variety of ways, not just letters or scrapbooks or oral histories. They come, embedded, they come with the things that we collect, and we save them to be used again as part of a larger story.
We collect stories, and from all of the people in Jefferson County, not just in the city of Port Townsend, not just in any particular town, but throughout the county, all the way to the Pacific Ocean.